What is Death Doom? I'm sure this will come as a surprise to no one, but Death Doom is a hybrid of death metal and doom metal. Even though they are a bit atypical for the style, Celtic Frost is instrumental to the formation of the genre back in the 80s. Tom Warrior has a distinct vibe to his music, and his bands are almost their own style of Lovecraftian metal. The band Winter is a far better example of pure death doom. However, there are moments that do call back to Celtic Frost. In the 2010s, Tom Warrior of Celtic Frost had another band called Triptychon, where the death metal and doom metal elements truly shine. Still though, it is a very unique take on it. Vollenfire is another 2010s death doom band that harkens back to the vibe of old school bands like Winter, but turns it up a notch and has better production. They are my personal favorite. The band Grave is an old school death metal band, though they are much more doomy, especially on some of their later work. Death Doom is a pretty straightforward style. It strays away from the thrashy sound of old school death metal, emphasizing the slower moments that bands like Obituary have. Death Doom lingers on this even more, creating a haunting atmosphere. Death Doom employs death metal vocals as opposed to the clean singing of normal doom metal. These growls are typically of the Cookie Monster vocals that are often associated with death metal, which is curious because actual straight-up death metal usually does not employ the Cookie Monster style, but rather a higher-pitched raspy scream, similar to thrash metal screams. Again, Obituary is a good example. Though, some death doom does contain these type of vocals, such as Asphyx. If a death doom artist has clean vocals, however, there is an extremely good chance the band has influence from gothic metal, which is often blended with the style. A couple examples of this gothic death doom are My Dying Bride, and Swallow the Sun. I would also say that Triptychon falls under this umbrella somewhat. Death doom, in fact, was key in the formation of gothic metal. It might seem bizarre that there is a Celtic Frost to Evanescence pipeline, but early gothic metal artists like Theater of Tragedy and Paradise Lost heavily drew from death doom. And to make things more confusing, there is also funeral doom metal. I suppose that funeral doom is a variation of gothic death doom that is slightly different, though admittedly, even I have some trouble distinguishing funeral doom metal from merely a mix of death doom and gothic metal. which is why I'm lumping all these together in one video, rather than giving Funeral Doom its own special video. However, I believe that Funeral Doom is even slower, and even sadder, if that is even possible. Funeral Doom metal bands include Ahab, Mournful Congregation, and of course, Funeral, who I do believe the style is named after. Funeral Doom is the metal version of a funeral dirge, and thematically, the style is about mourning the loss of a loved one. Now, I might be criticized for suggesting a consistent lyrical theme, even if it is in the genre's name in this case, but I will stress that a theme of mourning can be anything from losing a parent to cancer to a much more abstract example, such as lamenting the death of God in a Nietzschean sense. Just because the genre has a lyrical theme does not mean that I'm dismissing the depth of the lyrics or its significance. There is still a world of topics that can be explored, even under a theme as narrow as mourning. The theme of Death Doom itself is much the same, though perhaps a less saddened and more pained reaction to loss and grief than its gothic counterparts. Death Doom truly started in the 1990s and had a resurgence in the 2010s. I have mentioned my decades of stages of grief theory in other videos, and according to my theory, the 90s was anger and the 10s were depression. So it is interesting that this style corresponds well with these emotional states. From here, we will take a fork in the road. I will continue to cover doom metal subgenres, but I am also going to expand into other metal subgenres. So continuing on this doom metal road, next up is down-tempo deathcore. But for the other direction in this fork, we will be exploring the new wave of British heavy metal and seeing the more lighthearted side of metal. Our acculturation continues as we ask ourselves, what's in a genre?